In that, one zone was yellow zone, red zone or yellow zone, where we talked about like getting the approvals and permissions and all the things. Imagine you have taken, so ATC procedures and radio telephony as of now, these are not important topics with respect to the current license, but these are introductory topics. Or in case you have to fly, a drone in a yellow zone or a red zone. So in that scenario, you need to know how to communicate to ATC, or how do you have your activity performed in those zones. Okay, for that purpose, you should know what is the ATC procedures and radio telephony. The radio telephony, there is a separate license required. If you want to operate a radio telephony devices, there is a separate license required. In this scenario, we are not using those devices. We are using simple communication on a landline. Okay, so we'll be communicating with the ATC on the landline. Okay, so once we have the approvals from the ATC, ATC will provide us the contact details. Okay, so they will provide us the contact details, and then with respect to that details, we should able to communicate to them about our activities. That is what all about ATC procedures and radio telephony. Okay. So communication with the ATC plays an important role as we enter the manned aircraft airspace or ecosystem. You remember, that's what I'm saying. Manned aircraft airspace means what? It is yellow zone. Okay, so it is a yellow zone and ecosystem. That means manned means wherever your commercial or civil aeroplanes are flying, in that zone you are flying your aircraft. In that scenario, your communication with ATC becomes very, very important. ATC should be informed about any RPAS operation prior to the commencement of the operations. Like example, you got the approval, you are supposed to fly your drone at 10 a.m. That doesn't mean that at 10 a.m. you will contact the ATC. You should contact ATC at least 1 to 2 hours prior. Intimate that your so-and-so operations are going to be performed, and then they will give you go ahead. Okay, if they will check if there is anything to be done or any precautions or anything, they have to take also care. If there is something that they will intimate you, or they may ask you to change the timings, or they may say no also. Okay, because they have a full authority, because priority is always given to the manned aircraft. But that doesn't happen in case you have a valid approvals. Okay, so ATC will try to accommodate your activities also, but that you cannot do it at the nth hour and call ATC that I am flying the drone. Prior to that, you have to call and intimate about that. So this is all about how to communicate to them, how to speak to them, what information needs to be provided to them during the activity. Okay, so it is important to follow the ATC procedure in order to avoid interruption to the manned aircraft traffic. So if there is any interruption or anything, they can always tell you to terminate your activity, because priority will be always given to the manned aircraft. Okay, so it is always important to follow the complete ATC procedure, take their approvals, take their consignment, everything, then only we should commence our operations. Each RPA operator must be in two-way communication with the ATC. Once they have given you the contact details, you should contact them and continuously provide them update about your drone, because your drone they are not able to see. Okay, you are able to see your drone. You know where your drone is flying. You are aware of your drone flying and activities. So you should keep on updating the ATC about your activity continuously till your operation is completed. RPA pilot should be aware of the airspace and restrictions imparted in while operating the RPA. That means you should be knowing that what. So the ATC will tell you about the airspace in which you are going to fly your drone. Okay, so they will tell you about what restrictions are there. So you should be aware of the restrictions in that particular airspace. Okay, this is just a funny slide. Some slides are there. Radio telephony basics. RT provides means by which the pilot and the ground personnel communicate with each other. The information and instructor transmitted are of vital information in a safe and expeditious operation of aircraft, personnel involved in operations, and people on ground. There cannot be assumptions. So when you are communicating and when you are talking in a manned airspace kind of environment, when people are involved and bigger aircrafts are involved, you cannot assume. Even in drone flying, if you have not understood, you don't know anything about, please do not hesitate to ask. I am again telling you, you ask me 10 times, I will answer you 10 times. Okay, but don't ask me silly question 10 times. Okay, if you genuinely I feel that you are finding difficulty, I will try to make it simpler for you. Okay, but don't hesitate in case you have a query. Any slightest smallest, though it may look very simple or maybe foolish or something like that, you might think what. That's why we have this concept of pilot and co-pilot. If you are alone flying, lot of people we have seen the pilot do not ask or do not tell, okay, or they do not communicate about their problem. But when you have a buddy, okay, so you are a team, so you will always try to help each other, you will try always communicate to each other. Okay, it is always, we have seen the students, they don't speak to the instructors or they don't talk to the instructors when they find something which is, they might be, how do I speak, मैं कैसे पूछूं, or how do I ask this question, it might look very silly in front of the instructor or might be people, or there are there are some instructors who are not very approachable. Okay, if you see myself, I'm always approachable to you, I'll be always standing next to you when you are flying the drones. Okay, even though there is a co-pilot with you, I may not be saying, I will say as a team you fly the drone, I am observing, I will see whether you are doing things properly or not. I will only talk when it is necessary. I will give you that freedom that okay, you fly drone as per the plan or as per the discussions or as per the requirement. Okay, that is how we will fly. So that is the way we train our students. Okay, but we expect communication happening. You can't just you think something else and you do something else. It's not that way. When you are in aviation or in drone industry, you have to make sure that you have a clear communication of what you are doing and what you are intend to do. Okay, that's why we say when you are flying the drone, when you are starting the drone, there are a lot of communication. You will see when we are doing practicals, I will be teaching you all those aspects and I will making sure that you say that you go through those procedures and do it repeatedly every time you fly the drone, every time you do activities, every time you do some operations or things on the drone or with respect to the drone. Okay, so I'll tell you to do those things. So as a team, you have to do continuously. And say for example, let's say Rohit and Akash are flying the drones. There are other people also, like Kedar is there, Parth is there, Prayesh is there, or Praveen is there. It is not that they have to sit and they have to do chit chatting and all this. They have to observe. They even have to observe other people when they are flying the drones. Okay, so they also, like, it is not necessary every time that Rohit has a co-pilot as let's say Akash. Sometimes people can take a break, somebody else can become a co-pilot. Okay, it's again that flexibility is there, but we always say that you fly as a team. Okay, so that way you can do it. Okay, so that's why we say how communication will help you. Like if you are flying for aerial photography, like you are flying a DJI inspired drone, okay, which has two remotes. One remote is for flying the drone, one remote is for controlling the camera. Okay, in that scenario, both pilot has to communicate, both has to be knowing about flying, both has to know about the functionality of the drone, like how camera is moving, how the drone is moving. If the drone जा रहा है एक जगह पे और कैमरा एक जगह पे पॉइंट कर रहा है, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए ना. So both has to be communicating, both has to be confirms that okay, we are going to fly, we are going to take the shots in a such a way. So that communication has to happen. Similarly, when you are flying a drone in yellow zone or a red zone for some particular purpose, you have to communicate with the ATC. So there are certain procedures needs to be followed so that you are communicating to ATC in a right way. Okay. So radio telephony or radio communication must be carried out in a following manner through RT phonetics, that is alphabets as well as numerics, RT phraseology, Morse code and latitude and longitude informations, and to understand the RT frequency spectrum. So these are the couple of things which you should be aware when you are talking about radio telephony RT techniques. So when you go for a higher training, okay, or higher, there is a guidelines is going to come. There is already one guidelines has come, a draft guidelines has come on 3rd February 2025. That is called RT restricted telephony. Okay, which so in future this RT techniques training as well as license, there will be a license or certifications will be there for pilots. Even the drone pilots will be in future will be required, because you will be not flying the drones under VLOS, you will be flying the drones in BVLOS. So in BVLOS you are not seeing the drone is out of you, so you need to know how to communicate with other people about your drone flying or about your drone information. So that time the radio telephony will come more important. So that time the pilots would require to be certified on the radio telephony techniques. So this will be very extensive topic. Probably there could be a 3-day session will be there only on radio telephony. Okay, there is a huge topic where you need to be taught how to communicate in various scenarios. or with the RT, with the people, with the ATC, with the co-pilot. All that things have been taken care into the radio telephony. So there we use RT phonetics, RT phraseology, and RT frequency spectrum. So you should know also what frequency you have to communicate where. Some ATC tower will be communicating on different frequencies. Some ATC tower will be. So every time you connect with the different ATC frequency, they will tell you that on what frequency it needs to be communicated. Okay. So for example, if I'm leaving Mumbai, they will tell you that you communicate with the Surat on so and so frequency. Or when I'm leaving Surat entity, Surat will tell, okay, you communicate the next ATC on so and so. Or you might be already having pre-information that okay, Jaipur is communicating on so and so frequency, Delhi is communicating. So every time you should set those frequency for communicating. Sometimes when you are flying, there might be two aircraft flying. So sometimes you have to try and see out whether you are able to communicate with the other aircraft in the region flying. So sometimes these methodologies are also important when you are flying also. The same thing will be applicable in drone. We do not know how the drone industry will evolve because currently we are only flying in a limited space. But as the BVLS conditions expands, UTM comes into the picture, the flying of the drones and the way the drones have been flown will be a completely different from what we see today. Okay, it will be a completely game changer. It will become one of the mode of transport. Okay, it will be a very extensive and very busiest part when the drone takes over your transportations. Okay, so we are only talking about a very small scale currently about the drone taxis or parcel deliveries and all things. We could hardly see a drone in a city, but once these things or these guidelines are coming into picture, we'll see everywhere drones. Okay, we do not know how the whole sky will be looking for it. It is very difficult to imagine also at this point in time. Everywhere drone flying. We see in the movies and all that things like Star Wars or those kind of movies where they show all this the futuristic cities and all the things. But it will be a really chaotic when it comes reality. Okay, so that's why government is taking time for BVLS. You see, not only India, globally anywhere you do not have BVLS still allowed. Okay, in bits and pockets they are doing activities, they are performing exercise, they are doing some exercise, but not at a very big scale. Certain people are only given certain permissions to perform those activities, not available for everyone or not available for general. Okay, that general part will come once everybody knows how this can be managed or how this can be set up. So right now there is no ecosystem setup available for managing this kind of thing. Okay, even today we hardly see aeroplanes in sky, but still that is also a very chaotic in nature. Like you can see if you have some app or you can see online number of aeroplanes flying over your area, it will be more compared to what you normally see with a visual eye. Okay, so it's very very complex. But imagine hundreds, thousands of drones flying in the sky at a so low altitude. It will be very difficult and dangerous situation to manage and control. You never know what could happen at what point in time. It's like without rules and regulation, you are driving the vehicles on the roads. Okay, if you do not have signals, you do not have a traffic, you do not have rules and regulations, and you just take the cars, people drive left and right, what will happen? It will become a big chaos. Lot of accidents could happen, all the things. So if you don't have that ecosystem like monitoring, signaling, or personal monitoring it or controlling it, all that things, if that is not there, it will become difficult. That's why the drone system currently is only limited to VLOS conditions. Only certain people or certain organizations have been granted for doing certain activities beyond visual line of sight. Okay, so radio telephony. What are the phraseology? Phraseology is like A for Alpha, B for Bravo, C for Charlie. Normally in our day-to-day life, what we use: A for Apple, B for Bat, C for whatever China or something like that. D for Delhi we use, right? N for Nagpur, right? M for Mumbai. So these are normal day-to-day phraseology what we use. But in aviation, we use the standard phraseology, which is A for Alpha, B for Bravo, C for Charlie, D for Delta, M for Mike, N for November, O for Oscar, P for Papa, Q for Quebec, then your Z for Zulu, Y for Yankee, X for X-ray. Okay, and your numeric is again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 normal, but you will normally say number 1, number 2, number 3. Like for example, 80. I will not say age 80. Okay, in aviation we never say 80. We always say 80. So we always use numerics, not the name, like 80, 900. We never say 900. It is 900. Okay, or 1300. It is not 1300. It is 1300. So that is how you communicate the numbers in aviation. Okay. So again the same Alpha Bravo Charlie. So you can remember this once or twice. You read it, it will become very easy to remember, and you can communicate with the ATC using this phraseology. Okay. So you don't need to learn Morse code. Morse code is not used in basically in the drone world as of now, not required, because this is only for very special or private communication, or you have to communicate a very what we say not to know for other people and all the things. So in that case only you need to know Morse code. Or when you go for RTR training, okay, and certification, then probably you may need Morse code. But this Morse code is again at the level 2, not at the level 1. Level 2 you have to learn Morse code. So there is a different way. Here you cannot learn Morse code with starting by A, for like dot is dot and dash is dash. So dot is basically one space, one time, and dash is basically 3 times the dot. So it is like dot dash dot dash dot dot dash dash dot dot dash dash, like that. Okay, so you have to communicate in this way. So there is a you might have seen a Morse code device in a movie or in a series or somewhere, where they just give a beeps, like beeps, one beep, two beeps. Longer beeps are dashes. Okay, short beeps are the dots. So that's how. So if you want to learn the Morse code, it's not you can start with the A or B. You have to start with the simple letters like E. E is basically first letter to learn as dot. Then there is the next letter is T. So we learn T. So E is dot, T is dash. Then you will learn two dots, that is I. Then you have two dashes, that is N. So you will learn this way. There is a way to learn the Morse code. There are apps available on Android phones. You can download and use them. Over a period of month, you can learn Morse code also. But all alone you cannot learn Morse code, because you will know the words. You know the part. But if you want to communicate with each other, you need two people. Okay, or you may have to use app to communicate with each other. Okay, but it is always practiced by two people. Okay, when you have two people, it is very easy and faster to learn the Morse code. But in current scenario for drones, this is not required. Okay, in future only, if the RTR becomes a prime license for the BVLS condition, then only the Morse code will be important. Okay, so when we are communicating with ATC, we need to communicate the position of the location. So we need to communicate about our latitude and longitude. So I have one question to all of you. Do you know the latitude of Mumbai? Anybody knows the latitude of Mumbai? No, we have been using Google Maps for so long. Right? We search every time a place, every time a location. We don't know what is the latitude of Mumbai. Any idea? Any guess? Take a guess. No? Nobody want to take a guess? So Mumbai latitude is around 19 degree. Okay, we'll see in weather and meteorology also there is a topic called METAR. Okay, in METAR we will learn about this latitude, what is the latitude of each locations. Okay, so horizontal lines on the Earth's surface are called latitude. The central line is called the equator or the 0-degree latitude, and from it will climb upwards towards the north direction or towards the south direction in South Pole. Okay, so North Pole will be at exactly 90 degree. Okay, so Mumbai is somewhere around 18 to 19 degree latitude. And longitude is again vertical lines on the Earth sphere. So prime meridian, which passes through the Greenwich, is your 0-degree or 0 longitude. Okay, prime meridian, what we call. From prime meridian, we are on the right side. Okay, or on the left side, how we see it. Okay, with respect to the position of us. So we are almost at 72 degree from the prime meridian. Okay, whereas from the latitude perspective, we are 19 degree. So Mumbai is 19 and 72, we can say. As we climb up, let's say we go to Indore. Indore is 23 degree. Delhi is around 30 degree. As we go to Ukraine is 45 degree. We go to Moscow is 52 degree. As we go higher and higher up to the North Pole will be 90 degree. Okay, so that is how we understand the latitude. So latitude is more important. Longitude comes into the picture when we talk about the timelines. Okay, so we are almost from prime meridian line. We are ahead of 5 hours and 30 minutes, right? You know that, right? So right now, if it is 4:30 in Mumbai. So what would be the time in London? You have to minus 5:30. Okay, so somewhere around what, 12, 12:30, 12 o'clock it would be, right? So when we will be having 5:30, it will be earlier over there. The sun will be rising over there, right? So any questions on latitude, longitude? We have learned this in geography in our school days. I hope you will able to recall these things. Okay, or even on the maps, we would have seen latitude and longitude. If you take any map, you will see the latitude and longitude of your locations. Okay. Or even in the Google Earth, also you can find out. Right? Okay, so let's see the frequency. RT frequency spectrum. So what we see is the frequency where on which the communication is happening. So if you see very large frequency or low frequency, very low frequency or low frequency, basically using maritime radios or navigation. These are the wavelengths are very high wavelength. Okay, very high wavelength. High wavelength. This is very low frequency, 3 kilohertz or 30 kilohertz. Okay, so these are basically used in olden days, olden times, when used to communicate between the ships and the towers. Okay, so that time this marine, or even they used as a last option of communication. Even we use this type of communication in ham radios also. Okay, so very low frequency or low frequency. So these are very high, what we say, wavelength, increasing, high wavelength. Whereas frequency is very low. But this requires very less power. Even the mobile, not mobile, small battery can also, you can make a small radio to transmit this kind of frequency. Okay, but as you go further, medium frequency or high frequency, which is we called as AM radios or FM radios or shortwave radios in normal radio transition. In olden days, we used to listen to the radio, right? So in those also, but again, that is again still very small wavelength. Okay, kilometer, 1 kilometer, 1 meter. Okay, small wavelengths, but frequency is increasing. See here from 3 kilohertz, 30 kilohertz, 300 kilohertz to 3 megahertz. So your frequency is increasing, your wavelength is decreasing. So frequency is increasing, wavelength is increasing. The more higher frequency, the more power will required to generate and to transmit also. Okay, whereas low frequency, high wavelength is very easy with even small device you can make. So in olden days, during the World War I, World War II, they were using all these communications. Okay, but as we progressed, the technology evolved, we understood about the spectrum and all those things, we developed devices, technology development has happened. So we started using medium frequency, high frequency, very high frequency, ultra high frequencies. Okay, so all these high frequencies. So currently we are using this part of the spectrum for VHF television, medium FM radios, UHF televisions, mobile phones, GPS, Wi-Fi, 4G. Even your drones are using this segment. Okay, so your drone is basically in this segment, UHF. Okay, so that is 2.4 gigahertz. Communication is happening between your remote control and your drone. Okay, when the FPV camera is transmitting the video signal, it is happening at 5 gigahertz, 5.8 or 5.5 gigahertz. In that range, it is actually sending the signal. So this is in range what we see. So 2.4 is somewhere here. Okay, whereas 5 and above is somewhere here. So we are basically on the boundary of UHF and SHF. Okay, very high frequency. Okay, very high frequency, 30 gigahertz, 300 gigahertz. So these are being used under the radio astronomy, satellite communication, but their power is required very high. These are basically very high communication, and they can be transmitted at very high rate. Okay, the frequency is very high, whereas the wavelength is very small. So you can see that's why the frequency is inversely proportional to the wavelength. Okay, so this is how your frequency. So most important your part is VHF and UHF. Okay, this is the segment on which your drones will communicate. In this segment, VHF, UHF and SHF. These are the frequencies what you will communicate. Any questions on the frequency or the spectrum part?
No, sir.
Okay, let's move. Okay, so this is the last important part of the radio telephony. Suppose you are communicating with the ATC, you called up the ATC, how you will communicate. Okay, so this slide talks about how you will communicate with the ATC. So you will call the ATC, you are reporting to the ATC, you are on the phone. First thing you will say that you are calling with respect to unmanned. So you have to say word unmanned. Okay, so moment you say unmanned, ATC will know that you are talking with respect to the drone operations. Okay, so the first word you have to say is unmanned. Then you have to communicate about your UIN number. Okay, so your UIN number, whatever UIN number is there of your drone, that you need to communicate. Then you have to communicate about your latitude, longitude, and radius of your operations. So, for example, 19 degrees, 72 degree of your location, and radius may be 3 kilometers, okay, or 5 kilometers, whatever it is, and that what altitude you are going to fly. Like let's say maybe 500 feet, or 600 feet, or 800 feet, whatever altitude base to ceiling height you are going to operate, that you need to communicate. And when you are going to communicate, right now it is 4:35, so I am going to fly my drone at 6 p.m. So you say, okay, my start time would be 6 p.m., my end time would be 7 p.m. That is what you would say. Okay, that is how you will communicate. Then ATC will acknowledge and say, okay, good to go. Come call back at so and so frequency, or if there is any other number to be called, they will communicate to you, or they will tell you to call on the same number back. That is how you communicate with the ATC. So remote pilot should prefix a RPA call sign with the word unmanned, where it is required to have a voice communication with the ATC. Operator needs to inform ATC with exact latitude, longitude, and radius along with the altitude height from the base to ceiling. RT phraseology is used both ways, alphabet and numbers. So wherever you find need to communicate to the ATC any particular word, let's say you want to talk about Nasik. I am going to fly my drone at Nasik, and he doesn't understand what is Nasik. Okay, so or the location. So location is Nasik. Nasik word he want to you have to communicate to him. So you say N for November, A for Alpha, S for sugar. Like that you need to communicate. Okay, S for Sierra. Okay, all these things you need to communicate to them in a phraseology, the standard phraseology or RT phraseology. ATC frequency are monitored on a listen mode only, and communication is to be maintained via landline, because you are a drone pilot. You are not authorized to operate the radio communication equipments. That's why you have to communicate on the landline. The radio communication on air band frequency is only allowed for the operator who is certified to operate the wireless RT equipment. So if you are a certified RT operator, then only you can use those devices which are used to communicate with the ATC. If you are not, then you have to communicate only on the landline. Okay, so wireless RT equipment with valid RTR or FTR issued by WPC or DGCA respectively. So currently this licensing of RT communication is done by WPC. So there is a change going to happen, and this will be coming under the DGCA now. Okay, so they have already issued the guidelines in February. So I think the final guidelines will come somewhere in July or August. So all these things are what are happening are with respect to the BVLS environment. Okay, so government is extensively working to make sure that BVLS condition is started in India. Okay, so they are already released the draft documents, they are building the ecosystem, they are doing testing with certain organization or agencies to make sure that this is being thoroughly passed and given to the people, and people can safely use all these procedures. Okay, a standard phraseology used throughout the global with minor difference with respect to the different regions. So wherever you are communicating, you have to use this standard phraseology. That is the RT phraseology, A for Alpha, B for Bravo wala. Okay, not for A for Apple and B for Bat or D for Delhi or N for Nagpur. That is not a standard phraseology. Okay, that is Indian phraseology or Mumbai phraseology. Okay, so whereas there could be a minor difference, especially like Canada region or Brazil, or Germany, they have little bit one or two words different compared to the standard RT phraseology, but maximum they are same across the world. Even Russians uses the same phraseology what we are. Even Chinese uses the same phraseology what we use in English. Okay. Clear? Any questions on the standard radio terminology in RT phraseology? When you are communicating with the ATC, what is the word you have to start with? Is unmanned. Tell about your UIN number, then talk about latitude, longitude, radius, altitude, and your start time and end time. So whenever even you are starting, you do have communicated at 8 a.m. You have activity at 10 p.m., 10 a.m. You communicate again at the 10 a.m. Same thing again, and then once they said okay, good to go, then you proceed with your drone flying or drone activities. Okay. So any questions here on radio telephony? No, right? Okay. So flight planning, this is just we are talking about flight planning on digital sky platform. So in case you are trying to do the activity in yellow or red zone, you need to do a flight planning on the digital sky platform is necessary. You need to define all your landing zones, emergency landing zones should be pre-planned before the takeoff. FIC and ADC should be taken, all flight routes should be predefined. So these basically will be required only when you are FIC and ADC would be required only if you are doing international flying or bigger scale flying, all those things you are doing. But normally you don't require this FIC, Flight Information Center, or ADC, Air Defense Clearance, security clearance before entering a certain space. I mean, if you are doing some different activity, especially like for defense or anything, then only you have to do this FIC and ADC should be taken. All flight routes should be predefined. So that means, for example, I give an example in a real scenario. I'm a pilot and I'm flying from Mumbai to, let's say, Delhi. So I will have to file my flight plan one day prior. 24 before that I have to file my plan. Even though I am flying daily on that route, every route I need to file a flight plan. Okay, and has to be approved. Then only I should able to fly the aircraft. If my flight plan is not approved, I cannot fly on that plane and that route. Okay, so all flight routes should be predefined. So in my flight plan, I will be defining the flight route. Okay, if I am flying from Mumbai to Delhi, I will be flying from Mumbai. I will be going over the Surat, Vadodara, then Ahmedabad, Jaipur, and then Delhi. I cannot in between. I cannot go to like what is this called, Jamnagar, or I cannot go to Jaisalmer path and all that. So that is a different path altogether. So whatever the flight route is been predefined, I have to follow that. If I want to deviate due to some reason, I need to take an approval from ATC. ATC has to give me a grant. Okay, then only I should able to deviate, or else I cannot deviate from my path. Okay, so my flight path, similarly for drone flying also, if you are flying for yellow zone or thing, whatever plan you are doing, you need to communicate to them, you need to tell what operations you are doing, and then accordingly you have to define the flight plan. Then only you are able to give the permission for flying. If you do not have a flight plan, flight routes defined, you will not get the approvals also. Even what activity you are flying the drone, that also needs to be maintained in the flight plan. Then only you will be given approvals. Like for example, commercial airplane, there is nothing different activity you are going to fly, right? You are going to fly from Mumbai airport, flying the route and land at Delhi. So that is your normal commercial airline flight defined. So that you have to follow and that you need to log in your flight plan. Okay. Now when you are flying the drone, this topic is over here. This topic will be repeated again in meteorology also. Why this is here? Because you see here there is an altitude which we need to communicate. Whereas when we are flying a drone, okay, here it is, we are talking in general about the civil aviation. Okay, so normally for a drone we have to only think about QFE. Okay, so don't think about what is QFE, what is QNH and QNE. QFE is nothing but field elevation. Field elevation from the ground. From ground till what height? From ground. From ground is your 0 degree. Okay, or 0 height, 0 meters. Okay, 0 meters. I climb to 10 feet or 10 meters, or I climb to 20 meters or 200 meters. That is my QFE from the ground. So on the ground, when my drone is on the ground, my QFE will read how much? Any question? Any answer? On the ground, my drone is on the ground. How much what will be my QFE? Hello? No? On the ground, when my drone is on the ground, my QFE will be 0 meters. It will be on the ground. So ground is considered as a 0. Okay, the altimeter on the ground will read as 0 meters. I climb, I come to 10 meters, it will show me QFE will be 10 meters. I climb another 10 meters, so my QFE will show me 20 meters. Like this, I climb 200 meters, it will show me 200 meters. So your runway is at 0 meters. It will consider as a 0. Your drone will be considered as a 0. Your aeroplane will be considered as a 0 meters height. Okay, so that is what your QFE. QFE is nothing but field elevation. Okay, So drone, we are not flying on the watery areas as of now, because drone are not able to sense the altitude on the watery areas. Okay, so it will try to go down. Okay, because the sensors what are they are using, they are not able to sense the height on the watery surface. Now there are drones which have been built to maintain those altitudes and all the things on the watery areas, but currently most of the drones are not able to understand the watery heights. Okay, so QNH is with respect to the mean sea level. Okay, mean sea level. Okay, for example, if I'm flying from Dubai to Mumbai, when I'm flying from Dubai, I exit from the Dubai airspace, I am in the ocean, I am in the sea. In the sea, I cannot have a reference, right? I do not have a ground, I do not have a sea level, because sea some everywhere in the middle of the ocean is same, right? It will not see up and down in the sea. So there we measure the height with respect to the atmospheric pressure. That is what is called as QNE. Okay, that is called as QNE. Okay, or that is called as flight level. Okay, my flight level is at 20,000 meters. Okay, that is how the pilot will communicate. But as I approach Mumbai, I am nearer to the Mumbai. I am near. I know now here the sea level is what. Okay, as I am just 10 kilometers away from the Mumbai. So I know what is the sea level near the Mumbai. So with respect to the sea level, I will tell to the ATC that my height with respect to the QNH is, let's say, 1000 meters. So when I say QNH 1000 meters, the ATC will know that you are referring your height with respect to the QNH. Understood the difference between QNE, QNH and QFE? QFE is on the ground, on the terrain part. So for example, your airport will be always higher than the sea level, right? You see here in the picture, the sea level, the dark line is your sea level, right? So that is your sea level, but whereas your airport will be always at the height. So for example, Mumbai airport is around 8 meters above the sea level. Okay, so if you talk about QNH is nothing but QFE plus 8 meters. So let's say QFE is 20 meters. So what will be your QNH with respect to Mumbai? Any guess? So QFE is 20 meters. Your elevation of your airport is 8 meters. So what will be the QNH?
28 meters.
28. Correct. So QFE plus the elevation of the ground. Okay, so that will be a 28 meters. So you have to participate. Then only you will able to learn the points and learn about the things. Okay, so QNH will be that way. Nobody will ask you to tell QNH with respect to QFE and all the things. Sometimes, for example, आपका पुणे airport तो बहुत अंदर है, right? It's almost like 1000 meters away from the sea. So it is different. So I'm just giving to make you understand the difference between QNH and QFE or QNE. Okay, QNE is nothing but field. QFE is the field elevation. QNH is nautical height, whereas QNE is the sea level. Okay, within the sea. Okay, atmospheric level. So next slide will tell you about more in that depth. Okay, so height above the ground. Okay, QFE, field elevation जो हम बोल रहे थे, right? I told you that the altimeter will read 0 feet at the airport ground. Okay, QNH is nothing but altitude or the height. Okay, it's a local altimeter setting equivalent to the barometric pressure measured at the airport altimeter datum corrected to the sea level pressure. Okay, at the airport altimeter datum, the altimeter QNH indicates airport elevation above the mean sea level. Okay, so QNH will be at the location. Okay, let's say at the airport, it will talk about the elevation with the sea, like 8 meters. QNH will, if I'm measuring the QNH here. Okay, if I measure instead of QFE, I measure QNH. So QNH will be what? 8 meters. Okay, because I am at the ground, right? If I am measuring at the ground the QNH, it will be 8 meters. As I climb, if with respect to the ground, if I am trying to measure the QNH, I go to 20 meters height with respect to the QFE, the QNH will be 28 meters, because that 8 meters of elevation of the ground with respect to the sea level will get added. Okay. Standard altimeter setting, that is a QNE. QNE is a pressure setting at 1013 hectopascal. that will produce standard atmospheric altitude and provides basis for flight level. So QNE is nothing but it is called as flight levels. Okay, flight levels. So normally in oceans, okay, where we do not have a reference point, so we'll refer with respect to the standard atmospheric settings. Okay, so standard atmospheric setting at the ground is, or at the sea level is 1013 hectopascal. So with respect to that, the barometer will measure the pressure, and with respect to the pressure, it will know the height of the ceiling. Okay, that is what it's called as a flight level. So I'm flying at 20,000 meters flight level. Okay, 20,000. I'm flying at flight level of 20,000 meters. That's what we'll say. Okay, that is how we'll communicate with respect to the ocean or the sea level. Okay, so here you can see another interpretation. Okay, so height, you can see here height with respect to the ground. Okay, so QFE, again the elevation of the airport with respect to the sea level. MSL is nothing but mean sea level. So that is the actual altitude. So your altitude is nothing but height plus elevation. Okay, or Q and H is nothing but QFE plus elevation of that ground. Okay, whereas QNE is altogether a different measurement. It is respect to the standard atmospheric pressure, which is 1013.25 hectopascal. So with respect to the atmospheric pressure, the height is measured. Okay, so that might be a different, little bit variation would be there with respect to the atmospheric pressure. So that is when you are measuring with respect to the standard atmospheric pressure, you have to tell. So every time you are telling the height, you have to tell with respect to what you are measuring. So that's where the ATC will know that what respect or what reference point you are using for measuring your height. When you are saying flight level, it knows that you are telling about QNE and you are referring with the standard atmospheric pressure. When you are saying QNH, it knows that you are talking of altitude with respect to the some nearest airport. Okay, so you are actually in the sea but reaching some nearest airport. Okay, so that's why it says altitude. But when you talk about QFE, then it knows that you are with respect to some land location or some airport. So you are telling with respect to that. So that is height or QFE. Okay, or field elevation, what we are talking about. Okay, so that is what you are communicating. Clear? So with that, we complete our radio telephony topic over here. Okay, so it is almost 5 o'clock. We can take a break and then start with the next topic. Okay, so next topic is little bit longer, not longer I would say, but next two topics are very important. Let's see if we are able to finish two topics. Good for us. I mean, we have some time, still time left. 1 hour is left for us to complete. So let's take a quick break, and by 5 p.m. we'll start the topic. Okay.